Welcome to the Hustling Podcast. Hustling is a leading marketplace for side gigs, and on this week's episode, I'm thrilled to welcome Chicke Fitzgerald, who is the CEO of Solutionz. Chicky, thank you so much for being here. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Perry, I can tell you, since I have built my company largely with side hustlers, this is a really unique opportunity for me. I'm so glad to see what you're doing and how you're reaching people who are doing that for a living.
I'm so excited to get into your story and kind of tell our audience a little bit about what you do. And let's jump right in. What is Solutionz?
Well, Solutionz is the company name, and I used it because this has been my brand personally for the last 28 years. So I have been solving problems for other people, largely as a consultant. But the current company and the current venture is a product called Traveling to Give. And it began as a little bit of just a side gig myself, right? I was in the middle of building my last startup. This is my 13th.
Wow.
And so Solutionz, I know we're going to get into that in a little bit, but what we do is we provide a tool that people can plug into their website that can allow that content on their website to be trip enabled, is what I call it. And so imagine you've got a calendar function and we plug into that calendar, and every time you book a meeting that has a physical address, you can find the hotel nearby. That's what we do.
That's nice. That sounds like a huge value add. I have a good sense already, but do you have a canned elevator pitch that you might want to share with the audience?
Well, I wish I did. I think the easiest way to describe it is imagine if Amazon Smile, which is of course now defunct, meets Priceline. Right. So we take the travel that people are doing every day and we turn it into a donation for our client.
That's awesome. That is an incredible, I love the mantra there. I was listening to a podcast recently about one of these wealthy investors, and they're like, tithing is not enough. The most successful people in the world, they give way more than 10% back. And so I thought that was really interesting, and what you guys are doing is so relevant in that space. So
well, and our company tagline, when you take a look at the Solutionz brand, what we help people understand is that companies that give more make more. You actually become more profitable the more you give. It's completely counterintuitive.
I don't think so. I think it makes sense. I think people are more generous when your hands are open to give. And so I think it's becoming more of a mainstream thing. The more I listen to podcasts, a lot of people are talking about what you guys do. And I think it's becoming more relevant than ever in our society being so closed. And now we're kind of moving back to this. But I want to mention one thing. So, we have a huge audience of side hustlers. What problems is Solutionz currently tackling? What projects do you guys, have going on that might appeal to some of the side hustlers that would be able to help you guys?
Well, I would say our biggest challenge is on the sales and sales enablement side. And I get pitched every single day of the year on people wanting to come and do appointment setting for us. And it is very rare that I accept those outreaches. But I will tell you that if we had somebody who really was willing to help us build our company and not just trying to sell us services, we are absolutely willing to share the wealth, right? And I believe very, very strongly, and I mentioned that we built this company using side hustlers. I mean, we didn't call it that, but we have over 55,000 hours of sweat equity in our company right now. And so we have had people who come in for a day, a week, an hour, a month, and have donated their time to us. We use an application called Slicing Pie, which if you have never heard of it, that needs to be a part of your mantra because it is the best way in the world to keep track of side hustlers. And so now as we look at potentially selling our company, now we're going to be able to take those slices of the company, translate them into units in our company. And we've got a company that's looking to buy us, and they will then translate that into shares in their company. So it's going to be directly monetizable. And, this is something that is not always true when you give your time to a company.
Yeah, that's really neat. I recently interviewed someone from Adam Pay, this company, and she had this She basically
I've heard
created,
that.
yeah, she created a consultancy that kind of transformed into this, like, not an incubator, I forget what the word is for it, but like an accelerator of it kind of
Yes.
grew these, put the startup in a petri dish, grew it and expanded it into all these things. So it's really interesting what you're doing. It might be too complex and go over my head, but I'm so interested in it.
Well, no, it really isn't, because if you think about, and again, we've got people who have come in and they've worked for, part cash and part equity. Some have worked for all equity. Obviously it multiplies many times faster if you work for all equity. But we've done a mixture of everything. We have some people now on our team, who are getting paid, small amounts of money, but they're also still earning equity at an accelerated pace, which is the really exciting thing at our stage, because we're not a startup. We were actually a company that was ready to scale before the pandemic, but we make all of our money from travel and events. And, those businesses didn't fare so well during the pandemic.
Yeah, I day traded cruise line stocks for a while during that time, and I did okay. It was a
Oh,
interesting
wow.
season to watch, but you kind of touched on it a little bit. Let's go down this path further. What's the story? How did you kind of land on this? It's your 13th startup. You've written a book. I know you kind of
Right.
have the Steve Jobs' story before Steve Jobs had the story of the college dropout. You're very interesting. Let's talk a little bit about how you got here to this point.
Right. Well, I will just say my whole life, I've been at the right place at the right time every time. Now, I will also say that because my faith is hugely important to how I run my life and my company, all I did was listen to where God wanted me to take the next step. Right. And I tell the story all the time about how, when the Israelites were told to leave Egypt and go to the promised land, if you look at it on a map today, it's a 21-day walk, right? Maybe not with a million of your closest friends, right? But it didn't have to take 40 years, right? And so many of us take a 40-year journey when it could really be a much straighter line. And I won't say I've been on a totally straight path to where I am today, but I just really have had God's favor on my life, and I can't put it any other way, and I wouldn't want to, right? So I have been in corporate jobs, and every single thing I have learned has prepared me for today, right? Prepared me to be in the place I am today. So how did this come about? Was I was at a travel industry conference back in, I want to say 2010, maybe. And I got a phone call from my oldest sister saying my middle sister's daughter, who was 15 at the time, had a horrible accident on an ATV and nearly severed her arm. She was being airlifted to Montana. None of us lived in Montana. So because I'm the one in the travel industry, they said, you find the hotel room, we'll all meet there. And, she's having surgery tonight. So we all got there. Good news is they were able to, save her arm. She's, perfectly healthy now. And now is nothing more than the inspiration for this story, which is I came home from that trip and I said to my husband, I've got to fix this. This happens every single day. And so I came home, and 2 weeks later, I launched the Hotels Nearby Hospitals, because the real problem was Billings, Montana, even though it's a small town, is still 74 square miles. Where do you need a hotel? Near the hospital, not near the city center and the airport. And that's how the travel industry books travel. So I broke the paradigm and built it into a widget that was portable. And that product has grown and changed. And it became a product called Trip Proximity, was the original name. And then during the pandemic, I didn't want to be tied to the name Trip, because we added some non-travel elements to it. We've actually got a product that replaces Linktree. And so now we've got a product, we just call it our Smart Tools portal. And we build all different kinds of smart tools that just help you be smarter about everything that you do.
So it grew from that. When did you guys tie in the giving back or the donations kind of portion of it?
It's been from the very beginning, because giving isn't what we do, it's who we are.
I love that.
And I always knew, and it gets back to what you were saying, my husband and I have always been tithers, right? So for those who don't go to church or aren't familiar with that term, that is giving what's called the first fruits of every dollar that comes in, you give 10%. And most people who are givers on top of that also give an offering, right? Which is out of the abundance of your heart, you give more than that. And again, what we've learned over time is that the more you give, the more you have. And it's completely counterintuitive, but it's true. And so I had a situation about 15 years ago where I was literally laying on my back and saying, God, is this all there is? And I knew I could go out. I had a failure in one of my startups, and I knew that I could go out and get a job. But let's say even I get a great job and I've got $250,000 salary, right? Then I'm still giving 10% of $250,000. And yes, you can make a big difference, but not like, what if you gave 10% or 20 or 25% of $500 million, right? And God had equipped me to build a $500 million company. So it's like, I'm going to go out and do that. That's way more fun. So that's what I'm doing.
I love that. I was talking to a friend yesterday and said something along the lines of like, have you ever read Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich? Mm-hmm. And to me, there's some stuff that follows a lot of religious text in there. It kind of parallels. I know for some people it doesn't, but I was reading over that and it says, have a specific set of money and your goals. And I'm bringing this up because I know a lot of our audience, they love side hustling just for side hustling. They've been doing it, moonlighting maybe for a while, but also some of them might have been displaced from recent economic things in the tech world. And so I'm kind of speaking to them and saying, having these goals and knowing your value, and there definitely are, have been dark days for people I see on LinkedIn, but I think your company and what you're doing is an inspiration. And it's, I think of Tony Robbins when he says, if you're not willing to give 10 cents out of $1, you're sure as heck not willing to give 10 million out of 100 million, so the giving component, there are economics, whatever you believe, if you're listening, that definitely show that people that give more make more. So it is a really interesting opportunity to work with Solutionz and Chicky to find the right role. And before we close,
and let me just address that really quickly because I didn't give you a great answer. So very quickly, we need skills. Everything on the demand generation side of things. We pretty much got the technology. Our product is really mature. Not that we couldn't use help on the tech side, but really the people who are expert at demand generation of any kind, whether it's tracking tools, HubSpot experts, the entire gamut, social media, really helping us get on the map as a brand and helping people know who we are. The one thing I also want to add before you wrap things up is our giving model is very simple. We have one model, which is earn and give, which is we pay 10% to our client and we give them a 10% donation to their charity of choice. If you are a nonprofit, we donate 25%. And if that nonprofit helps teens in human slavery being freed from that, or helps veterans, we donate 50% of our revenues. So we can also use people who have a network of companies that they know who could utilize our tool. And the revenue sharing that we do extends also back to our channel partners.
That's incredible. Where can people find you? Where can they, I know you used to have a podcast, you were saying, where can they learn more about Solutionz and what you're doing and get going? We'll post the roles on Hustlewing when this comes out, but where can they learn more about what Solutionz is and your story?
It's very simple. Solutionz.com, and Solutionz is with a Z instead of an S. And then the product is called Traveling to Give. And you can find us either place. And, we would love to talk to you because sometimes it just takes that dialogue to understand the role that you can play in helping us grow. And again, if you have been trying to build your own company and you're frustrated with that, because it's a long slog, I got to tell you, we are like a 10-year overnight success now, right? But I encourage people, come and join an already established firm like ours who gives equity back to the people who help us grow, and be a part of something bigger than you. And it's just so much fun to do it with a company that has already got some momentum and is about to get some real major traction.
Yeah, that's great. Chicky, thank you so much for being on today. I really appreciate the time with you. I had a blast.
It was a lot of fun. And again, I so enjoyed the one that you described, the woman that you were describing before. It was just really inspirational to me. And I've been at this game a long, long time.
Adam Pay. Yeah, not a novel idea what you're doing. I mean, the more I learn, the more I realize we're just renaming. A lot of these things have existed for a long time. So it's awesome that
Definitely.
you're on the 13th startup. Hopefully that's another lucky number for you and for the side hustlers that join.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Chicky.
Okay. Take care, Perry.